Hello, my name is Allison Yablonski, and my project is titled Debunking the Choral Tone, Singing Healthfully in a Choral Rehearsal as a Soloist. To begin this presentation, I would like to talk a little bit about why this topic matters to me. As a choral conductor who was first trained as a soloist, I am confident in saying that singing is singing. Healthy vocal technique is universal. And there is no considerable technical difference between choral and solo singing. Rather, the singer must listen and invest in the sound that they contribute to. On a personal note, I studied vocal performance in undergrad while following my passion for choral conducting all 4 years of study. While learning my personal instrument, I was also developing my ear for ensemble singing, and sometimes I would get so frustrated. In private voice lessons, we worked on freedom of my tone above the staff and breathing to let the high notes soar. Yet when I sang in choral rehearsals, I had to listen to the soprano next to me. I thought my lungs would explode from all the breath I was holding in, and my lips were sore from creating so many closed vowels. But standing on the podium, I realized that the sound I thought I was gracing everybody with was probably sticking out of the choral texture. As I better understood my instrument, I also developed a vocabulary of phrases and terms to help describe the tone I was seeking. Based on personal experience and a strong desire to ensure that everyone has a place in a choral ensemble, I've taken this statement from my conducting philosophy seen at the bottom of this slide. One of the goals of the choral conductor is to encourage a single, unified tone that promotes healthy vocal production and stylistic excellence. So for the remainder of this presentation, let's talk about some common myths that the solo singer may bring to the choral rehearsal with them. Before we begin debunking the choral myths, it is worth mentioning that the intent of this research is not to diagnose or discuss vocal damage, and the following research is based on the ideal or healthy, undamaged voice, particularly in regards to a vibrato, breath management, and one particular sound without vocal faults that cannot be trained out of the singer. So the first myth with that in mind is that the ideal choral tone is completely straight and without any vibrato. So first, what is vibrato and where is it produced? So vibrato can be defined as the natural undulation of tonal frequency within the parameters of the pitch. And vibrato can be produced from two places, the abdominal muscles or the laryngeal muscles. Vibrato created by the abdominal muscles is a voluntary contraction by the singer and often has a wider range, like this. This type of vibrato is not sustainable, but it can be trained out of the singer. Vibrato created by the laryngeal muscles is largely trained through coordination of the cricothyroid muscles, vocal folds, and the breathing mechanisms. When these are appropriately balanced, a free and natural oscillation of the pitch can occur, like so. There's still some ring and some oscillation, but rather than discussing a singer's vibrato, it is more widely agreed upon to describe the ideal sound as having a healthy ring or a vibrant tone. A particularly wide vibrato, because of an older voice or a very big voice, may have trouble returning to the fundamental note, which is often detected as the wrong note. Richard Miller says that the ideal interval for vibrato is no more than a semitone away from the fundamental pitch. Anything more than that can be detected by other ensemble members, the conductor, audience members, and the harmonic integrity of the chord or whatever the tone is asking for will be compromised. So this choral tone that we talk about is the result of appropriate balance and blend across all participating voices. Balance and blend is not its own thing. There are many factors that we'll talk about related to achieving balance and blend, but ultimately it's the responsibility of the individual singer to coordinate their own vibrato. You can do that by listening, because singers are unable to physically touch their instrument to change the pitch or the timbre. This is where the conductor may use some interpretive phrases to guide the blended ensemble tone. We talk a lot about a round a round tone, or we'll talk more about a tone required of early music. Josquin de Prez' Ave Maria for four voices has a thick polyphonic texture with overlapping entrances and vertically conceived vocal lines. Vibrato was likely not present in each voice during this time, the early 15 and 1600s. And its use was much more ornamental than a timbral tone. This early music tone generally requires a focused sound with little variation of the fundamental pitch. But as we move into classical and romantic eras, where choirs were more frequently accompanied by full orchestra, vibrato became a more natural part of vocal production, as there was more sound needed to be generated over the forces. The vocalist's responsibility is to listen to the singers around them and to adjust the sound accordingly, but it's also the conductor's responsibility to be mindful of the vocal demands placed on the singer in a particular work. Some singers are not yet able to execute each performance practice style asked of them, so the conductor must also choose appropriate repertoire for the ensemble that they have in front of them. So, can I sing with vibrato in choir? Yes, absolutely. It's healthy to. And a tone without vibrato is sort of contrived and largely edited. But you must stay within a narrow oscillation in order to stay in tune with the voices around you. Myth number 2. All vowels are dark and closed. Professional choral ensembles such as Voces 8, The 13, or Seraphic Fire are undoubtedly fantastic examples of excellent singing and ensemble building. But be careful, because these recordings are often ultra-refined and heavily edited to remove any vocal flaw, and sometimes even remove vibrato. While it is incredibly beautiful to hear these groups perform, their tone will likely not match the collegiate or community ensemble, amateur ensemble that you get to sing with. If one of these recordings is your first entree into choral singing, you may hear that ooey-gooey quality, fall in love with it. But this quality is created by carefully refined vowels and very delicately tuned harmonies. When an amateur singer tries to emulate that sound, they will likely lean towards a very dark, closed sound because to the singer, it's luscious and full and ooey-gooey. But the conductor hears a tight, pressed, and swallowed tone rather than a natural, healthy sound. The goal is a tall vowel, or one with the greatest amount of appropriate resonating space in the mouth based on the vowel shape. If the conductor is after a particular vowel sound, then they should demonstrate or explain it for the ensemble. Vowel unity across the ensemble is a skill that requires practice, and accurate repetition and modeling by the conductor is crucial. Additionally, accurate rhythms and precision of consonant placement is crucial to well-aligned vowels. Based on the experience of the group, the conductor may utilize IPA, or the International Phonetic Alphabet, to eliminate the number of interpretations across the ensemble of a particular sound. The region of the country where the ensemble is located in is also generally a factor to consider. My South Carolina choirs pronounce Kyrie eleison just a little bit differently than my northern ensembles do. An example of this is Handel's Messiah, which includes a vast range of styles from light and melismatic passages to solemn, dark, sustained chord progressions. In the chorus, His yoke is easy, the sopranos have the first iteration of the His yoke is easy motive, as seen in the figure. Due to the tessitura of this section, tempo, short dynamic durations, the E vowel of easy must be placed at the front of the singer's mouth with a forward, bright resonance to be performed accurately. Additionally, the celebratory nature of the text will create a cheerful mood that will encourage a buoyant approach to this passage. The singer may also choose to modify from an E to more of an ah sound in order to accurately perform the runs. By contrast, the aural objective of the chorus, Behold the Lamb of God, is legato with double-dotted articulations, octave leaps, tonal repetitions, and vowel modification. The O vowel of behold is a back vowel, meaning the resonance required for the O vowel is formed with a depressed tongue in the back of the mouth. This is hard to maintain in the interval of an octave, which is the first interval of the motive, as seen here. Particularly for the soprano and tenor voices, the singer must modify the O vowel to a more open A vowel, open O vowel for the pitch on hold to be in tune and sung freely. Additionally, the placement of hold will also determine the placement for the rest of the phrase. The singer should maintain the forward placement to increase precision of the dotted note figure and to maintain proper intonation while descending. This movement is an F sharp minor, filled with guilt and humility as all of humanity beholds the Savior who will cleanse the world of sins. In a minor key, the singer will be tempted to return to that dark, closed, and back swallowed sound, so the conductor should be actively listening and providing feedback when the sound starts to tend towards that quality. It is also worth mentioning that the conductor's intent is going to determine how anything is performed. Based on that quality, the conductor should prepare a warm-up sequence that will aid the singers in finding that desired placement. If the goal of the rehearsal is to work on light coloratura passages, the conductor may choose ascending, fast, similarly structured passages to those prepared in rehearsal. If the goal is to maintain the integrity of the vowel on a sustained notes in a chord progression, then the conductor may utilize the vowel in a chord progression resembling the excerpt. So, are the only vowels you're allowed to sing in a choral piece closed? No. Just like solo singing, vowel modification will be necessary depending on the style period, tempo, rhythm, range and tessitura, language, and other factors determined by the piece and conductor. The third and final myth we'll talk about is the only appropriate dynamic is mezzo piano or softer. One of the primary goals for the choral conductor and singer is to create blend through vocal unity. Blend can be achieved by asking the singer to listen around them, which is often not a request based on one's volume. But how is one expected to listen while producing sound? A singer may have no idea what the rest of the piece sounds like when they're still learning their own notes and rhythms. Once their eyes can shift away from the score and up to the conductor, the companion skills of balance and blend can then be worked on. One of the major contributors to balance and blend is dynamic control. Dynamically speaking, every individual choir member should be heard equally when all other concepts, especially texture and melodic contour, are equal. Every individual should be heard. Conversely, no single choir member should be heard. Basically, listen. Messa di voce exercises can come in handy when the conductor anticipates dynamic control issues. Messa di voce means measuring the voice and is a technique used to control the quantity of sound related to breath management. A common exercise is to sustain a single pitch while moving between a vowel sequence such as e, I, o, u, and crescendo decrescendoing across 16 beats. Successful completion of this exercise will allow the singer the opportunity to listen and coordinate their vowel shapes and their dynamic contrast within their section and the ensemble. Depending on the range, text, and tessitura of a particular passage or work, the singer may need to increase the breath energy, therefore the volume, to accurately and efficiently achieve tone. An example of this for the sopranos can be found in Sean Kirchner's arrangement of Unclouded Day. The soprano one line sits between D5 and G5 for the second half of the piece. This is also between the second passaggio for the high female voice. Yet, the text does not lend itself well to this tessitura. The sopranos may be instructed to sing with a flappy jaw or a jaw without tension to remove consonants where the mouth will close and sound will become tight. Rather than singing the text as he would speak it, the singer will sing it like, "Oh, the land of an unclouded day," versus, "Oh, the land of an unclouded sky." The dynamic here is marked fortissimo, but the 7 other divided vocal lines beneath the soprano 1 melody would also like to be heard. With the combination flappy jaw of the sopranos and maintaining a tall vowel space, the soprano will be better equipped to sing this section accurately and without vocal tension. A commonly used reminder for choral singers is, "Never softer than solid, never louder than lovely." This simple saying reminds the singers to activate breath energy, but also listen to their own sound. If one is the only voice heard, perhaps the singer has transcended this ideal lovely quality of tone. So, can I sing louder than a mezzo piano in choir? Absolutely, but you need to listen and fit your dynamic contrast into the context of the ensemble's dynamics. Now that we have debunked every single myth that exists for the solo singer when entering the choral rehearsal, let's talk about the responsibilities that the conductor and singer have. For the conductor, you should prepare your singers appropriately for the rehearsal and repertoire that you have planned. Listen to the needs of the ensemble and triage accordingly, but also plan appropriate repertoire based on the singers that you have. Also, be mindful of vocal damage. Again, being mindful of what kind of singers you have will not push them to the extremes of their voice. And if they're not prepared to do something, then don't choose a piece that will encourage bad habits. Also, if you're in the position to do this, work with the student's private voice teacher to talk about healthy vocal technique and what you can do to assimilate technique between the choral rehearsal and the solo voice lesson. If there's a way to use similar terminology or to learn more about a particular singer's voice, going to the student's vocal instructor rather than directly to the student may give you a better sense of what's happening for the singer. There are also several responsibilities for the singer. First of all, the understanding that you are not limited to one genre over the other. You are absolutely able to have a successful career as both a soloist and a choral singer, if that's what you want to strive for. In the rehearsal setting, understand the vocal demands of the repertoire and approach the piece appropriately. Ask questions of the conductor for clarification, and if something doesn't feel right, a conversation would be welcome. As I said at the beginning of this presentation, the intention of listening is what separates solo singing from choral singing. Don't change your technique, but modify your personal output for the sound that you hear around you. Above all, communication is key. Talk with the conductor and your private voice teacher about vocal demands, concerns, or questions. The bottom line is, your instrument is personal to you, and you should perform in the way that is healthiest for your voice. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope you understand that my intention is to convey that singing is singing and healthy vocal technique is universal, whether you're in a choral setting or a solo setting. The only marked difference between the two is your intention behind listening. If you're singing in a solo setting, you're listening to the accompaniment, or you're listening to yourself if you're unaccompanied. In a choral ensemble setting, you're listening to the sound around you and figuring out how you fit within that sound. I've included a few additional resources, including the Choral Journal published by the American Choral Directors Association, the Journal of Singing from NATS, as well as Richard Miller's book, The Structure of Singing, which is the primary textbook that I used when comparing vocal pedagogy. And then Dennis Schrock is one of the choral pedagogues that I follow in my academic master's work. So if you're interested in any further research and kind of understanding more where I'm coming from, those two resources are a fantastic place to start. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you will listen a lot more intently next time you go into a choral rehearsal.